All right, big moves in the precious metals this morning, Keith. We're speaking here at the Denver Gold Forum, day one, and gold up 1% and silver surging more, close to 3% to hit 1794 as we're speaking right now. But as we know, a lot of things can change. Are we just seeing investors flocking to safe havens here on the back of the news from Saudi Arabia? Is that what's driving the market right now?
Well, silver is really cheap for one. We've had a pretty big move in gold, from 1250 to 1500, and silver's not played catch up in my view anyways. I think silver should be easily north of 20 right now, and but it takes time, and silver does tend to lack or track gold, but with a lag. And yes, you're right. I think the political environment around the world is getting pretty volatile, and it's getting quite scary. And I think that that's also helping the trade.
In the past, you've spoken often about how silver's long-term potential really lies in its industrial use.
I think so.
All right, especially when it comes to renewable energy. Mm-hmm. But are you concerned that if we see a rising price in silver, that it would cause industrial users to maybe thrift and find other replacements or metals to use?
I don't think so. You look at an electric car, for example. There may be 3 to 5 kilos of silver, in an electric car. Do you think that it's going to matter whether silver is $20 or $100? It's going to make no difference to the value or the price of that car. Or a computer or a cell phone. A cell phone may have $5 worth of silver in it. It's not going to matter whether that $5 is worth, $100 an ounce. It's not going to make a difference to the price of that phone.
So let's talk First Majestic right now, because obviously it's pretty good being Keith Neumeyer these days, right?
It's easier.
It's easier, right?
Yes.
So the stock up almost 70% since May.
Mm-hmm. Well, this $3 move in the silver price it translates into about $80 to $90 million in extra cash flow that drops to First Majestic's bottom line. That's pretty substantial, and it's just happened in the last few months. Shareholders or investors have not even seen the financial statements yet because there's this lag, and so it won't be until later this year that people actually see the benefit to us as a result of this move.
So what's the plan? What are you going to do with this extra cash on hand? Are you hungry for acquisitions?
Well, I think, finally we can get into a position where we could seriously consider a dividend. It's something that we haven't thought of for years. We've
Interesting.
Okay. We went through a 5-6 year period of compressed margins, and now all of a sudden our cash flows are getting to that point. Our treasury is now reaching record levels.
Wow.
So we might as well start giving some back to shareholders.
That would be a huge game changer. We don't see dividends paid often in the mining sector, and I think I had asked another CEO that with the rise in the gold, with the gold price especially, could we see more miners and royalty companies paying dividends here?
Mm-hmm. I think it could happen. You're right. It's not that common in the sector because the metals are very cyclical, and what a CEO or what a mining company or any company doesn't want to do is take something away that they've given to you. Yeah. So there's always a risk to we start paying a dividend today. What happens 5 years from now? So that's been our reluctance. And when silver prices dropped the way they did back in 2011, 2012. Well, we were actually seriously considering a dividend at that time, and my biggest concern is taking it away. So I think financially we're in the best shape we've ever been, and we're seriously considering doing that.
All right. What guidance can you set for investors, both in terms of production and revenue growth in 2020?
Well, 2020 and 2021 are going to be pretty exciting years for us because we pulled off a pretty big acquisition back at the end of 2015, and then another one in 2018, and we've got 2 assets that are currently being expanded, and both Santa Elena and San Dimas, 2-3 years from now, are going to be substantially bigger mines than they currently are today. So our guidance, I don't want to put any numbers out yet because we haven't put our official guidance out, but I'm looking at higher production for us in both gold and silver in 2020 and 2021.
In terms of price forecasts, I know I've said this before, you've always had bold projections for silver, but all of a sudden, they're not sounding so bold because a lot of people are coming out with pretty big numbers, both in gold and silver. I'm hearing now $10,000 gold, and you're not the only one saying triple-digit silver. Does that make you feel a little better that you're not alone in that camp anymore?
Well, I suppose, if you say it enough, it'll eventually happen, right? So, if enough people say it, then obviously it will happen. So yes, it makes me feel a lot more comfortable because I've been criticized a lot over the last, 5 years about some of my bold predictions, because we're mining 8 to 1. So for every 1 ounce of gold that's being mined worldwide, we're only mining 8 ounces of silver. Silver is extremely rare, and people don't get it. And it's been
People don't get that.
They don't. They don't have a clue. People think silver's in abundance, but it's not.
Can you talk more about that? Because I really do feel that's one of the biggest misconceptions, or what I hear is that, well, there's so much silver, there's no case for it.
Yeah, I quite honestly don't get it. I've talked to David Morgan on this topic, and I communicate with Ted Butler as well, and other individuals in the sector. And of course, being a silver producer, I talk to the traders that are actually selling and buying our metal. So I have an indication, I think, which is better than probably most people that are just observers, because I actually live this industry. I live this business. So I think when I look at the supply-demand fundamentals of the metal, I'm not just talking my book. This is based on real fundamentals in the market. And the above-ground supplies are dwindling. The production's dwindling. You look at even CPM's numbers or GFMS's numbers, who are the two data collectors. They've showed quite clearly that production's dropping over the last 3 to 4 years.
But do you think production's just dropping because a lot of the silver miners are just waiting for a higher silver price to start getting it out of the ground?
No, well, for one thing, it all comes down to costs. So, I suppose you could argue if silver prices were $100 an ounce, would more production come online? It probably would, but there's a delay of 5 to 10 years of that occurring, because it takes that long to get, you need the exploration, development, you need permits, you need to construct a mill, so it doesn't happen overnight. There are lots of low-grade ore bodies, whether it doesn't not just silver, but whether it's copper, gold, that could come online in higher price environments, but we're not there today.
Well, thank you for explaining that, Keith. And finally, I just want to ask you, because you never mince words, you're always really honest with your answers. Do you feel good about the state of the mining sector today vis-a-vis last year, let's say?
Well, the mining sector has grown up a lot in the last 10 years. And, this downturn that occurred, from 2011 to date has been quite educational, I think, for a lot of executives, a lot of CEOs, and I could speak for myself as well. We focused a lot of our energies on improving our business. And I've said to my team internally that we need, as a mining company, to treat our business like a manufacturing company. There's no difference between us producing silver or gold than a company producing jeans, for example, and the innovation that we've been able to bring in, the technologies that we've been able to bring into this sector, or our company, pardon me, has dramatically improved our business. Our recoveries have gone up from 65% to almost 90%. Our costs have dropped by 50% over the last 5 years, and other mining companies have been doing the same thing. So, environmentally, our mines are making less of a footprint, for example, and new mines that are coming on stream also will be doing the same thing.
So that's an interesting perspective. If I could get you to elaborate on that. When you're saying we should treat it the same way that if you were fabricating jeans, in terms of being lean like a manufacturer, or like what elements of that are key to you?
All the way from the extraction of the ore from the mine. A lot of that can be automated. A lot of that can be improved. Using less diesel. Using more green energy. For example, we converted one of our mines over to LNG a couple years ago. We've got another mine is just going out to tender now to convert it over to LNG. There's different grinding technologies. There's different chemical processes. There's ways of treating tailings in more environmentally friendly ways. And all these things the mining sector is doing today. And I think 10 years from now, the mining sector is even going to be much better than it is currently.
All right. So more growing up to do.
Yeah, I think so. Because the mining sector is very slow in moving. It's a very old industry, and it's not. I have discussions with engineers on a regular basis. Obviously, I employ so many of them, and it surprises me sometimes in how many of them don't think outside the box. They have to be twisted.
Reprogrammed.
They do. And a lot of the young people that are coming into this sector right now, you're having 25-year-old engineers, girls and guys, coming out of university that lived with iPads, iPhones, and they're showing up at these operations saying, what are you doing? And they're actually forcing.
You welcome that because you're a young CEO, right?
Well, not really. I might look young, but I'm 59. So.
For the space, you're still, still a young CEO. So is that frustrating for you when you're dealing with engineers who maybe can't see the bigger picture? Is that a challenge?
It's definitely frustrating. Yeah. And we started back in 2012, First Majestic I'm referring to, hiring young people right out of university with electrical engineering degrees and so on. And it was surprising to me when we did that when they came to the operations that many of them were actually fired. Because of the ideas they were bringing to the table were almost in a way maybe insulting. I'm not sure if that's the right word or not, but they were too controversial ways of doing things. And but over time, that original hire of those 24 people that we hired that year, half of them today are leaders within our business. And they're now in management type roles leading these innovation projects. And every year we keep hiring these new kids right out of university, and they're fantastic.
Well, thank you for those insights. Keith Neumeyer, thank you so much for stopping by and speaking with us.
Great. Okay, good seeing you again.
And thank you for watching. We'll have much more coverage for you on Kitco.com from the Denver Gold Forum. We're just starting, so stay tuned.